Welcome everybody to another Voice of Nick show. We're working again on the audiobook project. Again, the book that we're working on is called A Japanese Boy. It's written in 1890 by a person who moved from Japan to America and is telling 1890 Americans about his experiences in Japan. It is not out now. I'm currently producing it as we speak, but if you're watching this after the fact, you may be able to find it already on Audible and Amazon Kindle, which is where it will be released in book form with illustrations and audiobook form also with included illustrations. Let's jump in it.
And to such a place we felt sure must our grandpa have gone. Early every morning, for the first week or two, somebody from the house repaired to the churchyard to see that things were right and to put up prayers. Once or twice Jem was taken along for company, and since then he counted it his duty to attend us to the temple. Duty to attend us to the temple. My father and I would get up some morning on this errand, and no sooner had we appeared at the gate than Jem, uncurled from his comfortable sleeping posture, rose and shook his hair, and looked his "I'm ready." He generally paced before us, but frequently tarried behind to salute his dog neighbor with a good morning. Sometimes he would course sportively away from our sight. We whistled loud without any response, but knowing he could find his way back, we gave up the search and hastened to the temple. Upon our arrival, before Grandpa's stone sat a little dog. Before Grandpa's stone sat a little dog looking out on. Before Grandpa's stone sat a little dog looking out on the alert. Jem arrival, before Grandpa's stone sat a little dog looking out on. Little dog. Grandpa's stone sat a little dog looking out on the alert. Sat a little dog looking out on the. Grandpa's stone sat a little dog looking out on the alert. Jem received us in the capacity of host and conducted us. Looking out on the alert. Jem received us in the capacity of host and conducted us to the grave, saying as plainly as dog ever said, and conducted us to the grave, saying as plainly as ever dog said, "Don't you see? I know the way." One morning, ever dog said, "Don't you see? I know the way." One morning, we rose to find our Jem gone. Inquiries revealed him lying at a short distance from the gate, with his fur dyed in his own lifeblood. He was dead. Whether a prowling, ferocious animal had in his own lifeblood. He was dead. Whether a prowling, ferocious animal had whether a prowling ferocious animal had fallen on him in the night, or a cruel human brute had inflicted the wounds without just cause. Ferocious animal had fallen on him in the night, or a cruel human brute had inflicted the wounds without just cause. Mother took Jem's cruel. We could not ascertain the wounds without just cause. We could not ascertain. My father too, we could not ascertain. My young brother took Jem's cruel death to heart. My father too felt cruel death to heart. Brother took Jem's cruel death to heart. My father too felt deeply the sad fate of the now to him precious sad fate. And here, sad too felt deeply the sad Father too felt deeply the sad fate. Father too felt deeply the sad fate of the now to him priceless pet. And here, naturally, ends the story of our dog. And here, naturally, ends the story of our dog. Ends the story of our dog. Shaka's birthday of our dog. And the now to him priceless pet. And here, naturally, ends the story of our dog. Shaka's birthday.
This one probably needs an extra bit of time compared to the other chapter markers.
Naturally, ends the story of our dog. Shaka's birthday. In our temple, as well as in those of all other denominations.
Hold on a second. Let me open this up over here.
Ends the story of our dog. Shaka's birthday. In our temple, as well as in those of all other denominations, the birthday of the great common teacher, the birthday of the great, as in those of all other denominations, the birthday of the great common teacher, birthday of the great common teacher, Shaka, Gautama, is observed. The birthday of the great common teacher, Shaka, Gautama, is observed. It falls on the 8th, I think, of April. The observance, it falls on the 8th, I think, of April. Is observed. It falls on the 8th, I think, of April. The observance is simple and quiet. The observance is of April. The observance is simple and quiet, except for the distribution. Except in the East, except for the distribution of Ubuyu. Except for the distribution of Ubuyu.
Oh, that's not good.
Distribution. Except for the is simple and quiet, except for the distribution of Ubuyu. In the East,
let's raise this.
8th, I think, of April. The observance is simple and quiet, except for the distribution of Ubuyu. In the East, when a child is born, When a child is born, the midwife immediately plunges it into a tub of warm water. This water is called to a tub of warm water. This water is called ubuyu, or first bath. On the 8th of April, in every temple, a bronze basin is placed before the altar. This basin is placed before the altar. In the center of the basin stands a bronze image of the infant Shaka. His attitude is much like that of the boy Christ pictured in the illustrious Bibles and Sunday school cards as a teaching group of Bibles and Sunday school cards, the illustrious Bibles and Sunday school cards as teaching a group of the scribes. The myth relates a marvelous account of his rising upright in the bath, marvelous account of his rising upright in the bath, marvelous account of his rising upright in the bathtub, and telling his astonished parents and old midwife whence he came, pointing to heaven, and what his mission on earth was. His exact words are recorded in the Buddhist scriptures. The bronze vessel is filled with Buddhist scriptures. The bronze vessel is filled with a decoction of a certain dried herb, whose taste resembles the decoction of a certain dried herb, whose
I've since taken to pronouncing herb in the British fashion, which I don't know if I should do that in audiobooks because that's like a personal quirk of mine. But for this guy who's speaking in 19th century English, I figured it sounds more appropriate.
The bronze vessel is filled with a decoction of a certain dried herb, whose taste resembles licorice. The drink is popularly known as the sweet. Taste resembles licorice. The drink is popularly known as the sweet tea. The worshipper pours. Taste resembles licorice. The drink is popularly known as the sweet tea. The worshipper pours the liquid over the idol with a small dipper, and then sips a little of the same. Pours the liquid over the idol with a small dipper, and then sips a little of the same, mumbling sips a little of the same. Sips a little of the same, bumbling some devotional. The excitement sips a little of the same, bumbling some devotional words. The excitement of the day consists in the children's running to the temples during the early part of the morning with bottles of temples during the early part of the morning with bottles for the sweet tea or the ubuyu. Sweet tea. With bottles for the sweet tea or the ubuyu, as it is called in this instance. In the temple kitchen, the cook has boiled gallons and gallons of it, and from the dawn that functionary is prepared for the hubbub and the hard task of dispensing it expeditiously, to the throng. As the holiday comes in the same season of the year as Easter, the floral decoration of the temples are beautiful. The bronze roof above the comes in the same season of the year as Easter, the floral decoration of the temples are beautiful. The bronze roof above the basin and image is always artistically covered over with a quantity of a native
I was probably fact-checking this when I paused here.
A quantity which the quantity of covered over with a quantity of a native flour. Covered over with a quantity of a native.
That's not right.
With a quantity of a native flour. Of a quantity of a native. Quantity of a native flour.
Damn.
Quantity of a native flour artistically covered.
All right, let's just pick a different spot here.
Quantity. Over with a quantity of a native.
Perfect.
Is artistically covered over with a quantity of a native flower called genge, which the botanist may classify under the genus Trifolium, if I may trust to my early observation. The flowers literally color the...
That one took a heck of a time for me to figure out. It's like a rare word. I have someone helping me with like consulting on sort of more rare Japanese historical stuff. And I had to turn to them, and it even took them a while to kind of figure out genge, which is a kind of like lesser known version. I think it's a version of a lotus, of a renge.
Genge, which the botanist may classify under the genus Trifolium, if I may trust to my early observation. The flowers literally color the fields pink in the spring. The flowers literally cover the flowers literally.
Damn, how many times did I do this one?
Observation. The flowers literally color the fields pink in the spring.
It's probably because it was the last line of the chapter.
I may trust to my early observation. The flowers literally color the fields pink in the spring.
There's kind of a different intonation you want to put on a line if it's the finisher of a chapter.
Observation. The flowers literally if I may trust to my early observation. The flowers literally color the fields pink in the spring.
Good. All right, it's another chapter down. So the next chapter is the last one in the book, and then I have to do my read through and you know, checking for revisions, and then we have to finish the illustrations too. And I need to write the rest of the... I have the introduction like loosely sketched. I always write an introduction for these stories that I put out, but I don't have it like finished, so I got to do that. Then I have to narrate that, of course, and the rest of the kind of intro and outro materials, and then it's done. So we're getting pretty close. I'm still not 100% sure about the some of the stuff at the beginning. I might want to redo some of the earlier chapters, but I have to listen back and hear it again, because I kind of like altered the way I deliver the lines halfway through the book, which of course is something you never notice when you're doing it, but then when you're editing it, you have a more, you know, more of a bird's eye view. It's very hard to keep the same intonation throughout an audiobook sometimes. Okay, this is number 888. Take this. So far the book is 3 hours, 9 minutes. And that's not counting the introduction and the little preparatory note that he wrote. And if I do any illustrator's notes, which I don't think I'm going to do for this one. So the book in total will probably end up around 3.5 hours, which is a nice little quick read. Sort of similar to the length of Anyara, I guess.
And often kill them.
It's nice not to do a, 12 or 16-hour book.
Spirit of rivalry
because
at school.
This take a lot out of you.
It is suspended a brass saucer.
And take me like 6 months to do, so.
For prayers.
It's nice to do a shorter one every once in a while.
Lift him up by applying their shoulders to the where their hearts and bodies fall upon and down the streets. Soon they get drunk, being treated with wine in every house. Shrines built like a sedan chair.
So what I usually do is I check the overall audio level compared to chapter 1 for each successive chapter, because I don't want to check it against the previous chapter, because then you could end up with this game of telephone where it continually gets louder or something. So I check it against that to make sure that everything is mixed to the same level. But ultimately, Audible's going to kick it back if it's not. But this is just my kind of way of initially checking it.
Chapter.
Yeah, there's a difference in the delivery of the lines between chapter 1 and chapter, 10, 10 onwards. But I don't know that I mind it. Sometimes it's when you put them right next to each other, you can notice it really easily. So like if I played them right next to each other, you'd notice it here. But when you're reading the book, if it gradually changes from one to the other, you're not really gonna mind. Or even notice necessarily. So like chapter 1.
It is a huge artificial cave built of stone and mortar. In describing a distant view of Imabari, I made mention of a sea god's shrine.
So like that's slightly different. And then chapter 2 and some of the ones after chapter 1 are a little bit even further, like less refined.
Lived a keen-eyed little man who was wonderfully quick at figures, and to him we repaired for instruction in mathematics. We worked, not with slate and pencil, but with a rectangular wooden frame set.
So I kind of lost that like 1800s guy voice for a little while.
Having a distant view of Imabari, I made mention of a sea god's shrine jutting out into the sea.
But I don't think that it's like severe enough that you would notice it really as you're going through the book. So that's what I'm going to have to, that's part of the reason that I do these like read-throughs at the end, to make sure that it all fits together, in addition to checking for errors.
Chapter 14. The Festivals of Local Deities. In describing a distant view of Imabari, I made mention of a sea god's shrine jutting out into the sea. The festival of that god, as well as of one situated on the harbor, and of another on the bank of a river, takes place in the summer. A myriad takes place in the summer. The people go worshipping in the evening. A myriad of lights twinkle in the air and are reflected on the water below. The bank of a river takes place in the summer. The people go worshipping in the evening. A myriad of lights twinkle in the air and are reflected on the water below. Refreshment stands line the approaches to the shrine, and their vociferous proprietors assert their articles to be the very best. The crackers go off like popcorn, and scintillating fireworks dart upward now and here. Fireworks dart upward, and scintillating fireworks dart.
Where was it? Here?
Everywhere.
Nope.
fireworks dart scintillating fireworks dart upward. Fireworks dart.
I don't like that. Let's switch this and this.
Scintillating fireworks dart upward, corn, and scintillating fireworks dart upward, now here, now there, and everywhere, ending in resplendent showers of sparks. Drums are beating incessantly.
I always put a marker when I do something that like jumps further out into the sequence, because it's really easy to accidentally lose your spot. And let's say, for example, I did 2 takes of a line, and then I go back to where I was, and I accidentally land on where the second take was, and I don't realize that I didn't go far enough back. And that's how you accidentally leave in 2 takes of a line in an audiobook, which you do hear every once in a while in some audiobooks. Like, you can hear the narrator do a second take of the same line for reasons similar to that, where the person editing it kind of lost their place and missed that for removal.
Now here, now there, and everywhere, ending in resplendent showers of sparks. Drums are beating incessantly. The people jostle each other in getting on and off the steps of the shrine. Along the beach are seated a multitude cooling in the breeze, the children amusing themselves by digging pits in the sand and making ducks and drakes upon the water. And making ducks and drakes upon the water. These are the salient features of the Midsummer Night's festivities. The last, but not the least attraction, is the reviving breeze. The worshippers.
Oh, I remember.
Night's festivity.
I think I remember having redone this.
The last.
There you go.
The worshippers.
Oh, baby. Okay.
More time on the beach. Water. These are the salient features. Festivities. The last, but not.
It's nice to remember that so you don't waste all your time editing and then have to delete it.
Festivity. On the 15th, the worshippers of the Midsummer Night's festivities. The last but not least attraction is the reviving breeze along the shore. The worshippers generally go through the offering of pennies, clapping of hands, bowing, and murmuring of prescribed short prayers as hastily as practicable, that they may have on the 15th, as hastily as practicable, that they may have more time on the beach. On the 15th,
Good. Okay, we have good progress. We are into the last chapter here for editing, and that's always a big, exciting thing. So we'll be moving on to revising soon and finishing up the illustrations and all the rest of the things around the edges that need to get done. Thanks for joining, ladies and gents. Again, the book is called A Japanese Boy. The author is, I have to check actually, Shigemi Shukichi, and he wrote this book that I think is really extraordinary in the late 1800s. So it's a really interesting look into Japan from a very particular perspective. Now, if you want to find it, it is not currently out because I'm still producing it, but it will be out on Amazon in Kindle form and on Audible in audiobook form, both of them including the illustrations that we've also been creating live on the stream here. So thanks for joining, guys. I will see you next time. Bye-bye.